And it was a draw this year between Warren Buffett and Bill Gates at the annual Berkshire newspaper toss. Bill, you landed it on the exact same step as Warren. But what's amazing to me is you both were newspaper delivery boys.
That's correct.
So are you getting old? What's going on here?
No. We're not practicing enough, it doesn't look like.
No, neither one of us has thrown a paper since the previous year.
Surprise. Well, it took the quarterback from University of Nebraska, Taylor Martinez. He killed it. I mean, he threw that thing, and it was...
That guy completed passes for 4 years at Nebraska. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Watch him here. It was very cute that you did this. Because you own the Omaha World Herald, and you're a big fan of newspapers. Even now, when it is such a tough business?
I'm a fan of newspapers, but I'm not a fan of newspaper economics. Mm-hmm. It is amazing, probably not to Bill's as much, but I knew they would be in decline in both advertising and circulation. I have been surprised at the pace because I thought younger people would drop it much faster than older people, and that is true to some extent, but I've been surprised to the way that people 50, 60, 70 who had had a habit for years, the rate at which they drop subscribing.
Bill, we were just talking about the president's desire to grant companies this sort of one-time tax holiday for offshore profits that they're parking because they don't want to be double taxed. We noticed that Microsoft is just second only behind Apple as having a huge cash pile, $113 billion. I know you don't run the company anymore, but do us a favor, put your Microsoft cap on. Would you be for something like that, bringing it back and putting it to work in the U.S.?
Well, there's no double taxation. You always get total credit for what you paid overseas. It's just that if it's been at a lower rate overseas, then you pay the difference up to the U.S. rate. And so obviously for the shareholders of those companies, taking that potential tax liability and lowering it down is at least a one-time benefit to those shareholders. Now, for the government that actually does have liabilities, things it has to pay for, whether that's the smartest way to give up revenue or not, that's pretty complicated.
The tax reform plan also has pretty streamlined deductions that are going to be allowed if it were to go through. This is obviously just a skeletal structure, but Gary Cohn had said the only things that will remain are the mortgage deduction and the charitable deduction. You both started the Giving Pledge, which encourages billionaires to donate most of their wealth once they go or during their lives for this. What would it do if they don't keep the charitable tax?
Certainly wouldn't change anything Bill and I do, but it might undoubtedly would change what a good many people would do. But the deduction we get is a very, very, very tiny percentage of what it would be if you weren't limited as to what you could take. But it's hard to tell what effect it would have. I personally, that was an opening gambit in a very long game, and the Secretary Mnuchin knows that, and Gary Cohn knows it.
Well, you've got what, about 165 billionaires who've taken the pledge, including Carl Icahn, Harold Hamm has taken it, Mark Zuckerberg. Did you guys ever approach President Trump before he was president and ask him?
I didn't get to the T's. I don't know about Bill.
You stopped at the S's.
I don't know. I just didn't quite get to the T's.
Wait, would you ask him?
Well, this is open. It's not an invitation-only club.
Okay.
For the people who've been super successful and are committed to give the majority of their wealth away, we want all those people to come together and learn from each other, learn what works so that not only are we encouraging more philanthropy, but we're encouraging smarter philanthropy.
We're going to toss to a break, but before we do, the budget that President Trump floated has a bunch of cuts because I think we can all agree maybe there's some bloat.
There's probably a bloat.
But the National Institutes of Health, it looks like he proposed cutting that by, I believe, about $5.8 billion. You at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation spend a lot on medical research. What did you think of that, even though he says it'll come from overhead?
Well, I don't see any overhead like that. In fact, one of the few bipartisan bills last year was 21st Century Cures that gave NIH an increase, and then when they did the 2017 omnibus, they did another $2 billion increase. So it's great to see the Congress seems to really believe in medical research, because whether it's cancer or Alzheimer's, that's money that's going to have a huge effect. So both maintaining that investment in NIH and maintaining the money for foreign aid, I think America's strong enough and smart enough and long-term enough that those are good investments. And I'm pleased that so far it looks like the Congress, who has the final word on the budget, will stick with that.